Hi, this is JP Cohen, president of Memory Lane. You're watching Radicards TV on Radicards.com.
What's up? This is Patrick at Radicards.com, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Day 5 of the 2017 National Sports Collectors Convention. So, this was an interesting day because we get there and we leave at like 2:30 to get to the airport and then, get on the plane or whatever. So, it's the last day, and, the day prior, a friend tipped me off that Baseball Card Exchange was giving away or selling copies of the 84 Topps Elway and Marino rookies for $10 each. So I went back a second time and picked up those two cards again, which is a great deal. $10 each for those. Those are great cards. And then I pursue, I seek out one of the dealers that had indicated previously that he'd be bringing Thomas cards to show me. So I went and checked them out. I had everything, but I grabbed like a small handful of doubles, like I think less than 10 cards. And I think one of the cards was the 2017 Allen Ginter hollow foil card. So I picked those up, which was nice. And then I kind of just went about my day looking for stuff for my classics collection, looking for more Thomas cards, looking for more 90s inserts, just the stuff that I like to collect. It was kind of a soft day, but I was able to add quite a bit more to my classics collection. I don't recall picking up any more Thomas cards that day, and it was sort of a hustle. I mean, I went through so many cards throughout that week that on day 5 my right forearm was in pain, and it was swollen, and I think it was because I was sorting through so many cards throughout the previous 4 days. That the repetitive motion made my arm sore. That was the first time that's ever happened to me. I've sorted through millions upon millions of cards in my day, but the National is one of those times where you sort through so many in such a small amount of time. I mean, 5 days is just not enough time to cover an entire convention floor. I don't think I even saw 10% of what was in that giant convention center. But I hustled and made my way through, made my rounds, and I was able to pick out some really nice pieces. Going to a show like this is a really great, interesting experience, even if you're not buying anything, because you see so much interesting stuff from the last, I guess, the early 1900s, the late 1800s, and it starts to get me to think about, the question that I have is, at what point does a baseball card become less of a baseball card and more of a piece of Americana? Now, I say this because while I was at this show, I saw really old stuff from the early 1900s, like Christy Matthews and Cy Young, Honus Wagner, Nap Lajoie, these kinds of things. But some of these were really so old that at least for me, I started to think like, is this more of like a piece of history in the sense that I could put this in a museum and it could be a talking point, and less of just a baseball card to put into a collection? Granted, you could argue that baseball cards in and of themselves are pieces of history just by themselves, regardless of when they came out. I just started to think about this piece of it and relating it to classic history that I studied in school, and looking at some of these old pieces that are trimmed and cut in every which way, sold at auction houses and whatever, in big, thick, lucite cases. Really interesting stuff to see in person, and it's kind of it's a flashback to a different era, a different time, and so this is more a rhetorical question for you to think about. Baseball cards, at what point do they migrate into just not being more than just baseball cards, that they're now historical items, historical pieces, something you could put next to like I don't know, what's a good a soldier's boot from the Civil War or something like that, something that fits in that theme, that era of time. Not saying it's at that time, but it fits that block of thought around historical pieces that when you look at them, you're signaled thought on a time when some of the key milestones in our history took place. So, it's been really interesting to see some of these really old pieces and see their progression up to now, where cards have, kind of the life of cards and how they've become what they are today. Um, I like looking at the progression of the hobby back from, you know, the old stuff from the 1880s leading into the early 1900s, leading into the 30s, and then the 1950s and 60s and 70s, leading into the 90s, leading into now, and seeing the trends in the hobby that have existed throughout this time, and becoming aware of new things all the time. I really like that about the Nationals. There's so much interesting stuff on display that I was like, I didn't know that existed. That's cool. Or, I'll find something that I had only hoped to see in person. I remember at one point, I think it was the 2015 National, I saw for the first time in person a 1996 Select Certified Mirror Gold. It was a Ray Ordonez. And I remember thinking, wow, it's an impressive item to see in person. So the Nationals are a really good place for that. So it was a really good time. Day 5, I took more pictures of stuff. You can click on the link below, and it'll take you straight to the blog post about this conversation. And there's quite a few interesting pictures. I became aware of the 58 Topps Pancho Herrera without the A, missing the A on his last name, the end of his last name. And I had seen an example online fetch the last couple of months. I did pretty well in market. It wasn't quite nearly as nice as the one I saw at the National, so I took a picture. It's these things are fascinating to me because I'm always learning about some new error, and I've always liked errors. So some are more interesting than others. I've mentioned this before. Some are more significant than others, but I really like the concept of something happening in manufacturing that prevented a piece of the process to take place that was supposed to. I think it's really fascinating. The T206 Sherry McGee error, that's another big one that I saw at the show. I picked up a bunch of 71 Topps Bert Blyleven rookie cards, and that's just one of my favorite old rookie cards. But I'd like to get a nice one, like a graded copy. So I saw one of the auction houses, they've got a 9, a PSA 9, completely out of my price range. 71 Topps and 9s are almost untouchable. 8s are nearly untouchable. I think with where I like to go presently, a 7 is about capacity when it comes to the quality of a 71 Topps card, because that card is ultra condition sensitive. So it's really nice to see clean copies like that. I saw a few commons in 10s, just a couple. Just seeing a 10, no matter the card, in a 71 Topps baseball is something I wanted to archive. So this is a really, really cool experience for me. Now, I did take a few pictures of some of the modern stuff, like 97 through the late 90s and early 2000s, that kind of stuff. I like some of these really elusive pieces. One guy had a PSA 10 David Ortiz Platinum Medallion 1997 Ultra. I had to take a snapshot of that. That was actually a hard one for me to get, I felt, because the gentleman, I didn't think he trusted me. It didn't seem like he was real cagey, and I respect those things, but I'm just there to take pictures. I don't mean any harm. I'm just like any collector, impressed by certain items, so I just wanted to take a picture. He was welcoming enough to allow me to do that. Another gentleman had a 98 Fleet of Brilliance Randy Moss 24 karat gold. Also just an incredible piece, and I had to take a picture of that too. These are cards that I can't finance presently, but I really admire, and I think I'll always admire these items. These are just really, really cool. Another gentleman had the same guy who had the Randy Moss. He had the 1999 Upper Deck View to a Thrill quadruple A-Rod. It's numbered to 10. So these are really rare cards to find. You just don't see them too often. Now, price range is really quite high on these pieces, but I wanted to make sure that I had, some record of them, just because it's nice to see that they exist. So I took a few pictures of those. Really cool stuff. I mentioned this on a previous video, I believe, but if not, then here it goes. The day that I had left my bag at one of the previous dealer's booths, I was sorting through some cards, like a Frank Thomas player section in this mass bin of player lots, all for 50 cents each and up per card. And I was going through and I found a few nice pieces, the Thomas cards that I needed, and one specifically I had always questioned existed. I had been looking for this base card for a number of years, and I just was unsuccessful in my attempts to procure this particular base card. And I even reached out to some friends over there. Like, hey, have you seen this card? This is the 2004 EX base card of Frank Thomas. Now, mind you, over the years I've picked up 2 versions of the Essential Credentials Future and 2 versions of the Essential Credentials Now, one of each with serial number and one of each without serial number. And so not having the base card, but having 4 of the super elusive parallels, you'd think I'd have this base card by now. Long story short, this lady had 2 of them, so I bought them both just because of their rarity. Figured it's nice to have an extra copy just in case. But really nice that I was able to get that for 50 cents. That kind of made my day, a 50-cent purchase. And it goes back to my other thing that I was telling you, that a big buy doesn't always have to equate to a significant financial commitment. Okay? You can have a big buy and that doesn't cost you very much. And this is one of those pieces. And I really appreciate that. I'm going to show you a few cards here that I got, modern stuff that I've acquired. This little stack here this is really kind of the gist of my 90s insert stuff. I'm just going to show you 5 pieces that I'm proud of the stack. And so this is 2000 Bowman Chrome. I believe this is called the Then and Now. This is the refractor. So this is really cool. These are rare. I collect these refractors from the set just because I don't see them too often, and I like them. I think they're beautiful. I like this kind of like 55 Bowman design where you've got the TV screen. It's really cool. This is 96 Bowman's Best Atomic Refractor, Andrew Jones. Andrew Jones, he was real hot when he came up in 95 and 96, and then he just not as popular as he once was. And looking at his cards, I remember it takes me to this time and being reminded of how popular he was at one point. I really appreciate picking up some of his older stuff. It's so affordable, which is nice. So there's that. This is 99 Finest Gold Refractor. This is a Tony Womack. So this is stuff that was found in like 50-cent and dollar bin stuff. Thing is, though, I've noticed this stuff's getting harder to find. I mean, the tiny little stack I got, I had to dig for forever for what we see there. This is a 96 Pinnacle Aficionado First Pitch Preview. This is the Bobby Bonilla. I like these cards. Always thing I found funny about these cards is that when you flip them over, that way, it's right side up on the back. So you wouldn't think that, like, this card, you flip it over this way, it's upside down. I've always thought that was kind of interesting from a design perspective, but First Pitch Preview, Bobby Bonilla. And this last one that I want to show you, this is a 2004 Topps Chrome Red X-Fractor, if you want to call it that. These are cool. This is what they look like. This is a Claudio Vargas. I don't know much about the player, but I dug for a long time through a bin, and this was the only one of these I found. This guy had like Mirror Blacks and Mirror Golds and whatever else from this year, and the year prior, and I think the year prior to that, like 02 to 04, Topps Chrome stuff. I just picked out whatever I thought was, cherry in the batch. I think in that batch too, I picked up a 73 Topps Roberto Clemente for $1, but it was got a gnarled crease through the middle. I mean, it's a $1 valued copy of that card. Really cool stuff though. And this other stuff is just miscellaneous, like whatever for sets I'm building, like the Artist Proof from 97 Score, 96 Finest Refractor, 94 Bowman's Best Refractors, just miscellaneous, just whatever. Cool stuff though. 95 Bowman's Best Refractors. And it's getting harder to find this stuff now for me. And so when I go through bargain bins, it's becoming less and less fruitful every time I go to the show. It's Artist Proof from 96 Pinnacle. Now, I will say this, that just because something's hard to find doesn't mean it's any more or less desirable. might be the same desirability. It's just people just aren't bringing it. They're not bringing it to the National because people aren't asking for it, because table space is expensive. So I get that. So just because I found these and I didn't find much of the stuff I look for in the Modern doesn't mean it's any less available online. And I brought this up in a previous video that I purchased this Bowman Chrome National exclusive Frank Thomas card for $12 at a guy's booth, and I talked him down. He wanted $15, and then I go to the booth next to him, and he's got it for $3, and I'm like, well, heck, this is kind of too bad. I overspent. At the show, I didn't see. I think those were the only two that I saw at the show. I come back home and get on eBay, and they're of course routinely available now. Like $5 OBO is pretty common, with $3 shipping, so $8. Actually, I lost out on $4 if you look at it that way. Of course, if an offer is accepted of anything less than an asking price of $5, and of course that margin widens. So going forward, if I see something like this, what I've learned is that I will communicate with the seller that something like this is of high probability to surface online after the show, and that asking prices are going to be a little bit better than a double-digit figure. I mean, granted, there are parallels, and those might do a little bit better, but still, if it's a base card, it's an national exclusive, it's not serial numbered, I like to feel at least partially confident assuming that those are going to be available online after the show. Lesson learned, that's fine. I mean, I think I was just so excited about finding a Frank Thomas card at the show that I needed. So I was just like, all right, here's $12. I'm like, that's great. I don't regret anything. Like, it's just all a learning experience. And after the show, like I said, my buddy Dan and I, we left the show at 2:30 that day. The show ended, I think, at 4 or 5. I think it was 5 that day on Sunday. But, we wanted to make sure we got through transportation to the airport and whatever else. And I was packing that morning, and I left my bags at the hotel so I can shop without carrying them around. And it started to get me thinking, the question that I have is considering storage space, i.e. luggage space when shopping out of state at a show like the National, how does this limitation impact purchasing decisions? So while I was at the show, I saw a few pieces that are memorabilia, like a little statuette, a little bust, figurine kind of thing, kind of cool stuff that would work on like mantles and my backdrops, things like that. But then I got to thinking, well, how much space do I have in my luggage after I've try to fit everything I've purchased at the show? A bunch of cards, and I bought a couple books and just whatever else. This stuff takes up space, and I packed with just 2 carry-ons. So I don't have a lot of extra space. So I was thinking, okay, I'm not going to be able to get these figurines or these busts or these characters, whatever else. I just have to deal with that and maybe look for them online or something, because they were affordable, like $5 for these little things, and I thought it would have been nice to bring home, but chances are I would have tried to fit them in my luggage and it would have been crushed by the time I got home with just pieces, and I just wasted my money. So I thought about that. I started actively thinking about how best to store cards, like stacks, okay, of these. And maybe I do a binder every year, or every time I go to a show, I bring a binder with me. And at mall shows, and hotel ballroom shows in the 90s, the binder thing worked really well, and it's worked really well at the National. But this year, I filled the binder, and then I had like a stack of cards like this that I needed to put it in my bag. Everything was in cases, so I was fine, but I had to kind of just like put them in my bag. So I'm thinking about like, well, what if I had a 900 count single row and just put that in there and filled that up with penny sleeved cards? That might actually be better use of my space for my luggage. And then maybe if I come across something that is a little bit bigger, I can maybe store it and have a little bit more space. So I was thinking about that, and that kind of got me considering different methods of storing my cards, my purchases. The binder thing works out exceedingly well if you have enough pages to accommodate all the stuff you buy. This time was the first time I bought more cards than my pages could accommodate. So it might be the case that I need to put more pages in my binder, but my binder can't carry many more pages once they're full, so I need to go for a thicker binder. Currently I'm using a 1-inch. I'd need to do like a 2-inch. So that that might work. So I'm thinking about these different methods of how to store the cards for the next time I go to the National or a big show like that. Because if I can do without checking a bag, it can save me a lot of time at the airport. That's all I'm saying. But it's not to say I won't check a bag later and store all my clothes and whatever in the bags that I check, and then keep the things on me that I don't want jostled about in transit. So good stuff. My schedule at the show was busy. Just to go right into this, here's how it went down. Okay, 8:20 a.m. I wake up, prep, and be in the line by 9. Try to be in line by 9 a.m. Meet Dan. 9:30, enter the show floor and take pics and find stuff to buy for my collection and blogging. I'm doing this until 6. I snack at like noon. I grab I carry with me a pack of peanuts and jerky and a protein bar. Anything with protein, it gets me feed my brain, which is really important, by the way, because they had pieces of pizza there on sale. I think it was like $8.75. I mean, they're big pieces of pizza, but come on, $8.75. You can buy a whole pizza for that at some places. Whatever. So I was able to dodge that expense by carrying protein bars and jerky and peanuts with me. 6 o'clock, return to the hotel to eat. Now, Dan and I, as soon as we get in, we spend about an hour talking about what we got, and we eat, and whatever. It's really a great experience. By 7 o'clock, I begin prepping blog content. Okay? This includes downloading pics from my phone, creating and archiving a storage location, prepare pics for web. This means cropping, sizing, touching up, watermarking, titling. Draft blog post, which includes writing content and image uploads. Okay? Once that's done, I shoot video for YouTube. Okay? Download the raw footage and edit it. Okay, upload video to YouTube and embed it into the blog post. Publish and market the blog post, which I didn't have time to market. It was just publishing. And seriously, by 1:30 or 2, regardless of how much I got done, I was in sleep. I was done mode at that point. I remember, I think it was like, it must have been probably like Friday night. I fell asleep at my computer at like 1 in the morning. I just decided to put it away. I was a little behind that day because we attended an event after the National, which was a great event. But that was my day. And so my days were, from morning to night, it was a hustle. It was a great hustle. I enjoyed every second of it. But I had to sacrifice options. My options were, hang out with friends that I hadn't seen since last National and get something to eat with them, meet up with them, whatever. I just had, unfortunately, just not enough time in the day to do it all, unless I can figure out how to do blog content development, development, implementation, and marketing in a faster way. So I'm play around with that this year, I guess, and see what happens. But no rush. I don't regret anything, of course. This is why I went. I had such a great time. I really highly recommend it to anybody who hasn't gone. If you haven't gone to the National, try to go. I mean, it's a great experience. Yes, it's a financial commitment, but I mean, what isn't? What entertainment isn't a financial commitment? Well, granted, you can have a picnic at the park, I guess, for free, but the cost of the food that you're bringing to the picnic does, in fact, require some financial commitment, right? So, entertainment in itself requires some financial commitment. Walking, you require walking shoes. That costs money. Skateboarding, for me, it costs money. Speaking of skateboarding, here's a really amazing ollie I did just the other day. I really had a great time at the 2017 National Sports Collectors Convention. It was great bumping into some of the YouTubers, Nate, Ben. It was great bumping into Dan. What's my friend's Eric? My buddy Eric from New York. It was really great seeing him. Thank you all for saying hi to me. I really appreciate that. I had ordered business cards and they didn't arrive on time, so I didn't have any to pass out. But you know how to reach me on Radicards.com. That covers the show. Thank you so much for watching and reading. I really appreciate it. Please like, subscribe, comment. Click on the links below and read the blog posts if you'd like. Thank you for watching another episode of Radicards TV on Radicards.com. And until next time, enjoy collecting.